Okay, we're going to talk about switch statements. Now, sometimes it's easier just to show the nonsense you're trying to avoid rather than explain it. So here we have a big block of if-else statements. And basically, we're assigning the value 4 to n, and we're just checking to see if n is equal to, equal to 0, equal to 1, equal to 2, equal to 3, equal to 4, equal to 5. And then we're executing, for instance, it is equal to 4, so we'd be executing that chunk of code. Now, we're doing the same thing down here with the switch statement, where we're still passing in n, which is equal to 4, and we're looking for equality for each one of these cases. So is n equal to 1? No, so it's going to return false here. So each of these cases are looking for a true or false. If they're false, they're not going to run their chunk of code, and they're just going to go down to the next case. So is 2 equal to 4? It is not. It jumps down to the next case. Is 3 equal to 4? It is not. Returns false, so it jumps down to the next case. Now 4 is equal to 4, so it's going to go ahead and run this chunk of code, and then it's just going to jump down to below the switch statement. It's not even going to look at this part of the code. It's just going to move down to here. Something I probably should have mentioned sooner was the switch is a statement, so it's going to control the execution flow. Go will attempt to execute top to bottom, left to right, except for when it gets to a statement. For instance, when it got here, when case was equal to, n was equal to 4 and returned true, we executed this chunk of code, and we just skip down to here. You'll see the execution flow directed from if statements as well as for statements as well. Anyway, let's go ahead and run that real quick. There we go. Both of those chunks of code return or print the word 4. Let's go ahead and block that out. Now let's say we want something to run if all of our cases come back false. That's when you'd want to use a default case. So in this situation, we have n set to 54, which obviously is not equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And in this one, we just want to print a number not found. So the default will always run as long as all the preceding cases are false. And the default has to be at the end. So let's go ahead and run that real quick. There we go. Number not found. Now let's take a look at the fall through. Now with this switch statement, we're passing in a string b, and each one of these cases is just checking, like all the others, just checking for equality. Is string b equal to string a? It is not. We go down to the next case. Is string b equal to string b? It is. So it's going to run this chunk of code, going to print b, and then this fall through statement tells it go down to the next case and go ahead and run that chunk of code, and that case doesn't necessarily even have to be true. Just go ahead and run that piece of code, and of course we have another fall through here, so then it's going to go ahead and run the next case as well. So let's go ahead and run that. There we go. Like we said, being that string a is not equal to b, so it doesn't run this chunk of code. But string b is equal to string b, returns true, runs this block of code, it falls through to the next case, prints c, falls through to the next block, next case's code, and it prints d. Now, a couple things to notice in this example. This one's going to be more like a real-world example. We're going to be taking a score, and depending on that score, we're going to go ahead and set a grade. And finally, we're going to go ahead and print that grade to the terminal. So a couple things to notice is that for our case here, our chunk of code that we can run is actually on the same line. Now, if the code you're going to execute is very short, like we have here, you can go ahead and put it on the same line. If it's very long at all, I would recommend go ahead and putting it on the next line. And another thing to notice here is that we're not passing in a condition here. It just says switch and it goes directly into the block of code. Now, each one of these cases is still looking for true or false. If it returns true here, it'll still run its block of code and then jump down to the bottom. If it returns false here, it'll just jump down to the next case and just keep on going. So here we have a score of 81, and so case is going to look at this. This is an expression here, so this is going to return true or false, and to where this, just going to replace this part I have highlighted with true or false, and then case will run accordingly. So score is 81, and we have our greater than or equal to operator here. So it takes our operand on the left and it sees if it's greater or less than or greater than or equal to our operand on the right. So 81 is not greater than or equal to 90, so it returns false right here. We just go down to the next case. Now 81 is greater than 80, so it's going to return true here. It's going to run our chunk of code for that case, and then it's just going to jump down to the bottom, and finally it's going to go ahead and print grade. So let's go ahead and run that. There we go. Grade is a B. Now, I hope that was helpful. I hope this showed you some tools to avoid some very unwieldy code. And it should just help you keep your code looking a lot cleaner. And it can, like with the pass-through, it can help you do some things that would just look pretty messy if you try to do them with if-else statements. All right, I'll see you in the next one.